Jim, how's it going? Whoa.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Hey, good. All right.
All
Well,
right.
I'm just traveling to a different media event, but I'm pulling over here at this next exit so I could talk to you without any distraction.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, tell me a little bit about Clearance Camo.
All right. So Clearance Camo is it's a podcast, started out as a blog. Um Basically it was where I could get my funny hunting stories out into the world. Something
Uh-huh.
that somewhere where I could post the stories that I thought were funny and hopefully other people would think they were funny too. Um, and so I decided I was going to try and run with that and see where all it could take me. And so far, it's been giving me opportunities I never thought I'd have.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
yeah. Um,
And is that something you do full time?
so I do that as well as I manage a storage unit facility that allows me to work from home and take care of my kids.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So currently, I'm working at a retail store while my wife is on maternity leave, but I've only got about 2 more weeks of that.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Well,
want to tell
that's
me?
great. And where do you live?
I live in Idaho Falls. Well, Shelley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And sorry, Idaho Falls or where?
Shelley.
Oh, hey, I got a lot of family in Shelley.
Yeah, that's what your wife was saying. You got some family out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, you guys are from Southern Utah, right?
No, we live in southern Utah now, but my wife's from Blackfoot and I'm from Boise. We've only
Oh,
lived here for 2 years.
for 2 years. All right. Well,
Yep.
Nif, how'd you guys meet?
BYU, Idaho.
BYU, Idaho. All right.
Yep, good place.
Good place. I got some friends going to school there right now.
All good.
Yeah. So you want to tell me a little bit about Backfire TV so that when I post this, people know what they're looking for?
Yeah, sure. Backfire's a YouTube channel. We're coming out with some physical products in a couple weeks. So it's always kind of been um, just a content business, and now we're working in to come into the firearms market, into accessories for firearms. And I've spent my career kind of building up online brands and selling them. And so I've kind of built up 12 different companies and I sold them. And now it's Backfire.
All right. All right. No, I've been watching Backfire for a while now, and the I actually use your content a lot of times when I because the retail store I work at, I sell firearms. So I actually
Hmm.
use your content to help educate people. I'll tell them to go watch your videos so that they can have a better understanding of some of the things that I'm trying to explain to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what
Yeah.
store are you at?
I actually work at Cal Ranch in Idaho Falls.
Okay. The biggest cow ranch in the world's in St. George.
Yes, it is. I was actually there just a few months ago.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm the store right in front of the corporate office.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it's not fun. Yeah, but hey, your wife said you were on a trip in Norway. Is that correct?
I was supposed to be in Norway, but the trip got canceled.
Oh
The
man, I'm sorry.
last, I was literally packing my bag and the trip got canceled last second.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Happened. And then I had a trip to Africa like the month before and it got canceled the day of the trip. Crazy.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
unlucky.
Well, I mean, from your channel, it looks like you get a good opportunity to get out there and go to a lot of places.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I saw your video about the match grade bullets with the
Hmm.
and it's funny because immediately after I watched that, when I went to work, that was a conversation that I had with our corporate guys about hunting with match grade
Mm-hmm.
bullets. And so I was like, hey, I just watched
Yeah.
this video. You should watch this.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. I'm still a little bit torn on it.
Um, well, so I have a lot of customers come in and show me what they've killed, and they'll tell me what they killed it with, and I do have a lot of people that tell me that they use the match grade bullets for hunting.
Hmm.
Um, Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of using like a 6.5 Creedmoor on bigger game like elk. But that's because my shot placement, I cannot guarantee that I'm going to hit exactly where I want to. So
Yeah.
I like a bigger bullet with a little more energy on it. But I think so far this year, talking about last year's season, I've had about a dozen people tell me they killed an elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor using match bullets. So
I mean, you throw lead at anything and there's a chance it'll die. A 22 can kill
it
it.
can, you're right.
Not
But
ideal, but it can do it.
I'm a 280 caliber and up for elk kind of guy.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah, and it's actually because of your videos that I decided that I was gonna save my pennies and work towards a 7 PRC.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm hoping here coming up to have the guys from Christensen on so I can actually talk to them about their rifles.
Hmm.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. But no, I gotta say your videos, they make a ton of difference. They educate me, and I like to spread that education to other people. You had the video about the 22 Creedmoor coming out, and I've talked to a few folks about that, and we're excited to see one.
Yeah, me too. I've got one coming. They sent me some ammo, and now I'm just waiting on the gun. I'm definitely interested in that one. I've been coyote hunting with the 22 250, and uh, people get some runoffs with the 22 250, and so a little bit heavier of a bullet I think could make sense.
Yeah, yeah, and it's if I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to travel a little faster too, right?
Then 22 250, I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
Okay, yeah, and then you released something on your website about the cheapest calibers to hunt with.
Hmm.
Or and I actually printed that off to show to my manager, and then we actually went through our ammo selection, and you were spot on
Oh,
with
cool.
so yeah, we were pleasantly surprised with that article. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's got to keep it in mind because some of them you're paying a premium to go shoot that thing.
this is very true. I mean, when you're talking $70 for 20 rounds for factory ammo versus I mean, I can buy some 308 rounds for like 24 bucks for a box.
Hmm.
And so
Pretty big difference.
it's a big difference. I mean, granted, there's a huge difference between performance as well between, a 308 and a 300 PRC, but yeah.
Yeah, it's true, but you also compare a 300 Win to a 300 PRC and you say these are pretty darn similar and one's a lot cheaper.
That's very true. Yeah. And it also because of your videos, you had a video on Tika, and your pros and cons on the Tika T3X. And one of your complaints was it feels plasticky when you touch it. Um, but I decided to look past that and I ended up buying a Tika T3X and a 300 Win Mag. But
Nice.
yeah,
And what's the recoil like on that?
it's not terrible. So I have the Tika T3X light with the stainless barrel, and it's shootable. I could go through, if I'm sighting it in, just on a bipod versus a lead sled. I could still shoot about 10 rounds before I really start to wonder what I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a bad recoil on it. So
That's good.
yeah,
And do you have any muzzle device on it?
I do not. So it did not come with a threaded barrel. So the plan right
I've
now,
talked with them about that.
yeah, I I'm actually gonna try and take it to a gunsmith, see if he can thread the barrel for me, and
Hmm.
see if I can talk the wife into letting me buy a 30 caliber suppressor.
There you go.
So and it's not so much for the noise reduction, it's more so for the recoil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because let's face it, I mean, a 300 Win Mag is going to be loud no matter what you do to
Yeah.
it. So, but
A
that's the
lot of
plan.
powder.
There's a lot of powder there. But yeah, I've decided I was going to look into that 7 PRC. The rifle that I really want is the Christensen Ridgeline FFT Titanium.
Hmm.
So very light gun. It'd be great
Yep.
for backpacking hunts. And with the 7
Yeah.
PRC having a lot less felt recoil, um, I think that'd be the way to go on that one.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah. So anyway, do you have? I asked your wife to have you prepare a funny hunting story. Do you have one of those for me?
I didn't get that message, but let's see. I'm sure there's several. Uh,
I mean,
Funny
something that
hunting story.
might have made you furious at the moment, but now you look back on it and it's kind of funny.
Sure. Yeah, I got one. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and hear that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we were hunting in Texas, and it was we were deer hunting, and it was my son's first deer hunt. So we were kind of a combo deer and hog. Unfortunately, so many of the states don't allow kids under 12 to go big game hunting, and that is super frustrating. That is like my life's mission, is to get that changed in every single state in America. Man, not to go on a little tirade here, but young men absolutely need the outdoors right now. I mean, desperately, they need it. And so for states to not allow big game hunting under 12 is a tragedy in my mind. Absolute tragedy. In my mind, that is the parent's decision when a kid is responsible enough. Can I understand a law that, they've got to be accompanied by an adult or something? Sure, I'm not going to let my 12-year-old out with a rifle by himself. But man, we absolutely need more kids hunting younger and younger, to combat the world we're in. Anyway, so the reason we went to Texas is Texas did allow big game hunting younger, and Idaho did not. And so I spent months working with my kids, just getting them trained up, just getting them used to shooting 6.5 Creedmoor. They were just getting past the 22 kind of stage, and into, a hunting caliber. And so they're hunting, so they're shooting 6.5 Creedmoor, and they're getting used to the blast and everything, just kids. So I hooked up a cardboard. I made out of cardboard the shape of a hog, and I attached it to an RC car. And we'd go out in the desert, and I'd drive it around, and they'd try to shoot, just to practice with something moving a little bit and waiting for it to stop before you shoot, that kind of stuff. Anyway, we'd practiced all this time getting used to the gun, and we go out, and first night we're hog hunting, and my younger son shoots a absolutely enormous hog. I mean, huge. It's bigger than me, this thing. It's a giant. And so his older brother now has been beaten, and didn't get wasn't the first one to shoot something, and so he's feeling antsy for sure, to show up and shoot something. Anyway, we get on the deer stand 2 days in a row. We see deer, and just not, the antlers have to be outside the ears, in Texas. Essentially, I think it's 15-inch spread or something like that. But essentially, antlers got to go outside the ears. And so didn't find a shootable buck. we go out to shoot that night, go hunting hogs, and my my older son, so we're looking through a night vision, and they're first time they're looking through a night vision scope, and we see some hogs coming in, but he is the only one with a night vision scope. We're in the ground blind, and so he can see, but we just know some kind of shapes out there. And he looks at him and he says, "Oh, I think they're cows, they're not hogs," and shoot, so he can't shoot. And so he's disappointed. We're waiting, and then like 20 minutes later, I pull up the scope while we're just waiting, and I look at it, and they were definitely hogs. They were not cows that he was seeing. So now he's super mad that he didn't shoot and he had an opportunity there, but he just couldn't quite tell that it was a hog in the night vision. So this kid is keyed up. He's got blood in his eyes, ready to shoot something. And so the next morning, he's shooting a Ruger American and 6.5 Creedmoor, and this great little buck comes right into a feeder, right 100 yards in front of us. Everything's perfect. It's funny because if you watch the video, I tell the kids on video, and they let me remember it. I say, "Hey, when the buck comes in, be cool, don't freak out, just be quiet, and we'll silently pull up the gun and shoot." But then later in the video, when the buck comes in, I'm like, there's a buck. I'm like the loudest one in there, saying this buck comes. And then my son goes to shoot, and he flicks off the safety of the Ruger American. That has the loudest freaking safety of any gun I've ever seen. This deer's like 60 yards away, and when he flicks off the safety, the deer immediately looks up, knows exactly that something is going on. It pauses for like 2 seconds, and then it just sprints off. And so my older son went his first hunt, had multiple hogs in his scope that he could have shot, and thought they were cows. Thought he was going to shoot this deer, and he missed out on the deer. And so it ended up a failed hunt. After all that practice, the one thing that was our demise was the sound of the safety.
All right, I've been in a similar scenario as your son, actually.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so when I shot my first buck, um, it was I shot it in the evening, and so I shot it. We got it gutted, but we didn't have the time to hike it out in the dark. And so we hung it in a tree, marked the trail, and went back so that we could come back the next day to come get it. Um, when we came back, I was hunting with my dad, and he took his rifle with him. I didn't take mine because my tag was filled. Um, but the same group of deer that my buck was in came back the next morning to the same spot. And
No
so
way.
my dad put his rifle on the post and was looking at the deer. He pulls the bolt back so he could put a round in, and the deer was just looking at him like, okay, you already shot one of us, you can't shoot another one, which I shot the first one so he could shoot another one. As soon as that round went forward and as soon as it chambered, the deer just like evaporated. It was gone. Uh,
Wow.
just ran out of there super fast. So it was actually the sound of the
Dude.
bolt scaring the deer away.
Man, it's like you plan so many things, you think through so many things over and over again for months before a hunt, and then it can be the tiniest little part that you just didn't have your system together that it fails on.
Yeah, it's amazing what the little things will do to you. Something you can't really plan on.
Yeah, the biggest one, I I think by far the thing that I've seen more people miss out on shots from is just not having their gun accessible in time. So often, you're backpack hunting, and that thing is strapped down three different ways, and it takes too long to get the gun out and ready to go, and it's gone. Same thing happened to me, well, this spring bear hunting in Idaho, and we as soon as we got to, we're in the unit, we're driving dirt roads, and we're we still had a good 30-minute drive through dirt roads to the spot where we wanted to camp. But we're in the unit and we're in trees and stuff. And so I stopped as soon as we got to dirt roads and pulled out the gun from the truck bed, got it all ready. You didn't put one in the chamber. That's what I do. I never use a safety at all. I just, if there's one in the chamber, it's loaded and you better be careful. And if there's not one in the chamber, that's what safe is for me. Um, and anyway, so I got everything ready in the gun, had the gun accessible, but kept one out of the chamber. And I got the tripod, made sure the tripod was accessible, so that we're ready as we're driving through the mountains to shoot something. Because sometimes just crazy stuff happens, and you have an all of a sudden opportunity. You can run off the road, get to a safe and legal spot, and shoot. Anyway, sure enough, that's exactly what happened. There was an opportunity, but the tripod wasn't quite the right height. Took us a minute to get it all right. Missed an opportunity. We had even stopped to try to get ready, but just got to be quick sometimes. I always want to get to that spot where the animal has no idea you're there, and but sometimes that's just not how it happens. And there's a quick opportunity. If you want to take it, you gotta be ready. And then even after that, we were kicking ourselves, and we did get our bear that we had backpacked in. Totally different situation, but later in the hunt, same thing. We were just exhausted after a couple days and hiking in the backcountry and stuff, and so we were driving into a little town in central Idaho, and driving into a little town. What happens? Wolf runs right in front of my truck, right in front of the truck. And it runs up this little hill. And if we had a gun ready, we could have got to a safe and legal spot, and we could have made a shot on that wolf, because it kind of went up this hill and stopped up there. But we weren't ready right then. We were planning on just going to town and grabbing a greasy burger and some fries. And so, man, I don't know how many times that has happened to me. And I still am not figuring it out that when you are in the hunting area, you have to be fully ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yeah. I was archery hunting one year with my dad and one of his friends, and it was raining hard. The rain was just coming down, and so my dad and his buddy didn't want to hike in that, and this was my first year ever archery hunting, so I was like, all right, I'll tag along with you guys because I don't know what I'm doing. As we're in the truck going for a drive, there's two deer that just stopped right on the side of the road and stared at us. And
Yep.
I mean, we could have. I was on the driver's side of the truck. I could have scooted over to the passenger side, gotten out, walked behind the truck, and still got a shot. Because
Mm-hmm.
they had zero cares in the world that we were there. They were just
Yep.
looking at us. But the problem was my bow was in the bed of the truck under the tonneau cover. And so I'd have to drop the tailgate, move
Oh,
the tonneau
shoot.
cover, and get the bow. And
Yep.
so we just sat there and looked at the deer for a while. We, I mean, I was kind of under the impression because I was told at the time, I mean, I was pretty young. So at the time I was told when it's raining like that, the deer aren't moving. Well, now I know it doesn't matter. The deer are going to move.
I've heard so many things about, don't hunt in rain or whatever. People say you'll never shoot a wet deer. And I'm like, you want to bet? Because you definitely do. And that happened again on this spring bear hunt. Actually, it was exactly that quote is a friend of ours was out there right before we were there. And he said, I got rain in the forecast. You're never going to shoot a wet bear. And when we shot our bear, it was soaked. It was just soaked. And it was interesting because we watched some bear, I mean, a whole afternoon. It was just on and off rain, on and off, on and off, the whole afternoon. So it was really cool to see what exactly their behavior was in the rain. And when it was downpouring, they would just tuck under a really big pine tree and just flop down, and you just can't see them. But when it's sprinkling and in between, they stand up, keep moving. They're in the rain all the time. And so I think it's so easy for hunters to find some kind of excuse why today isn't going to work. There's no point in going out in the morning because bears come out later. There's no point in hunting deer in the afternoon because they're all bedded down. Don't hunt in the rain or the snow. There's like so many things that we all tell ourselves of like, ah, it's no point right now. And the truth is, if you want to be shooting stuff, you hunt all day your entire hunt.
Yeah. A few years ago, I was on a muzzleloader hunt in Idaho. My wife was home with the kids. I drove up and I was staying up there. The last day, I was supposed to head home around noon, so I decided I was going to go for a little morning hunt. Which, if I had got something, there's no way I would have been home when I needed to be home by. But with the muzzleloader hunt, you got to be a lot closer, and the snow was coming down so thick that if I was standing at the bed of my truck, I couldn't see the front of my truck. So
Dang.
I can understand not hunting in that because you can't see anything. You have to be on top of the elk for them for you to be able to shoot one. But I still went out and scouted, drove to the top of a hill and kind of looked around. And all I saw was just a white screen of snow. So I decided I was going to head back. And it turns out it's a good thing I head back when I did. Um, on the freeway heading back home, there was a monster whitetail dead on the side of the road. And
Oh,
and with Idaho's laws, you can salvage what you want to salvage. It was a monster. And so I was like, well, it doesn't have a whole lot of snow on it. So maybe the meat, no, the guts were exploded inside and it was rancid. But I took the head anyway. And it's currently hanging in my living room.
no,
So,
that's awesome.
but yeah, that didn't make my wife super thrilled that I was calling her from the side of the road, telling her I was chopping the head off of a deer.
When I was in high school and I lived in Boise in high school, we would always skin roadkill all the time. I worked up at a scout camp in McCall, Idaho. And so we every week we'd be driving all summer long. We just lived up there. And so we were driving around dirt roads and stuff. And we skinned so much roadkill and did our redneck taxidermy on it. It was terrible, but we loved it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm for my son's first birthday party, I was doing a cowboy fast draw shooting practice, and on the way back,
Hmm.
there's a little 2 point mule deer dead on the side of the road, but the blood on the fence post was still wet, and it was a white
Wow.
vinyl fence. So, um, I talked to the owners of the field, and I was like, "Hey, there's a dead deer out here. Can I take it?" So I threw it in the back of the minivan and drove home with this deer because they didn't want me to gut it on their property either. So I drove home with this deer, put it in the back of my pickup on the tailgate, and gutted it right there. Got myself covered in blood. So then, trying to set up for a party while I'm covered in deer blood, and then I had a few people at the party that. I mean, my son was one. He doesn't care who's there, so they all went out to the garage and helped me process this deer.
Dang, that's fun. I didn't realize you could salvage anything in Idaho. I
Yeah,
mean, when I
so
was in high school, we were just completely oblivious, but I didn't know now you could do that.
yeah, there's a form you have to fill out online, and it takes the location of the animal, um, and then you mark down what you're taking. So if you're going to take the whole animal, you can say you're taking the whole animal. If you're just taking the hide, you can tell them you're just taking the hide. If you're taking just the head and antlers, you can tell them you're doing that. Even if it's a dead elk and it's completely rotten, like a dead cow, and you're taking the ivories out of it, they want you to mark that down. And then they have it basically tells them where the dead animals are so they can get them off the road. Um, and then that allows you, if you take the entire animal, you can use that salvage to get it processed if you're taking it somewhere to get processed.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I wonder what the Utah law is because, man, Utah, oh my gosh, they're so much more restrictive on everything with hunting than Idaho is. So much more. And it's hard, really hard. If you hunt multiple states, it's so hard to stay within the law because there are 1,000 little differences, and it makes it very tough. Yeah. For example, we were talking about, taking those quick opportunities that come up in hunting in Idaho. If I remember right, it's you have to just be off the road and the curtilage of the road, meaning the little whatever side shoulder, whatever. In Utah, I was told, hunting with a guide, that you have to be 100 yards off the road, and so it's like little things like that. It's like, oh my gosh. And so many guys now, you may be hunting 3 or 4 states, in the fall. You may hunt Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah. And so to know all those differences, how many square inches of hunter orange do I have to have? And just there's so much crap that you've got to know, that it's frustrating, because people who are trying to follow the law, there's so many tiny nitpicky laws, and they're so different between states that it's hard to follow them all, even if you're really honestly trying to follow the law.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even in Idaho, depending on how you're hunting, changes the law. So let's say you're pheasant hunting in Idaho. If you're in a field, I believe they recommend orange, but I don't believe it's required. But if you're hunting on a
Mhm.
wildlife management area, you have to have 36 square inches of orange from the waist up.
Yeah,
And
and it's like, how many square inches is? I don't know. It's frustrating.
yeah, that's actually
Which
why
is why I printed those 500 square inches of blaze orange shirts that are green. Green shirts that say that.
yeah, those were and I wanted to wear one of those just to uh just to take pheasant hunting actually.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but going out there last year with the amount of people that were on the wildlife management areas, that was
Uh-huh.
I'm wearing orange when I go out there. I don't want to be shot out there.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's a good idea. People are idiots. I just don't like the government telling me how many square inches of what color of clothing I need to wear. I just feel like that's individual choice kind of stuff.
I I think so too. I think if I just want to wear an orange hat or if I want to be completely orange, that should be my choice.
Yeah, I feel like that's the whole principle of America. It's about liberty and freedom, and you make your choice.
Yeah. And I've been deer hunting in an any weapon hunt, looking through my binoculars and seeing a guy come out of the brush, and he's in this. It's probably the best camo I've ever seen because he looked just like a deer, except he was on 2 legs. Um, so I'm like that guy. There's a good opportunity that he could be shot at this year if he's not wearing any orange like that. So
Yeah, it's extremely bizarre to me that that happens, because I just think, like, if you can't even tell what species you're looking at and you're taking a shot, like, I just can't even fathom that. I just can't even imagine being like, blob, shoot it. It's so weird. I just can't even imagine that.
well, it seems like
Usually when
every
when I'm shooting an animal, I've been staring at it for 10 minutes and analyzing it and everything. And so it's just weird.
it's like every year though somebody shot at movement, and it's like,
Yeah.
what part of be sure of your target and what lies beyond it did you miss?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I talked to a fish and game officer that told me that that year they had 4 moose shot by hunters who had elk tags and just honestly thought it was an elk. And he said, they turned themselves in, like, were totally honest about it, but they thought it was an elk. And I just think, like, those animals look nothing alike. They really don't. Like, man, like, I could understand a new hunter that shoots a whitetail thinking it's a mule deer or something. I can understand, but like a moose and an elk, like, they're completely different. It's crazy.
Or the guys that shoot moo cows instead of shooting a deer.
Yep.
Those don't look anything alike.
No, dudes are just flinging bullets in the backcountry, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I hate cows because they're always in the way, but I won't shoot a cow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate having you on. I'm gonna let you get back on the road so you can get to where you're trying to head to. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Once this all goes up, I will send it to the email I've been talking to, and then we should be good there.
Awesome. Hey, I feel bad at the start. I didn't realize we were like recording yet, so I was just shooting the breeze with you. So I
Oh
was
no,
probably super awkward for the first half there.
no, don't worry about it. I can edit that out of there. um,
Sorry, I was just chatting and I was like, oh, I think we're going.
oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But yeah, once I get this up, and then you said some things in there that are super helpful, so I'm going to make those into some YouTube shorts, and I'll make sure that I give you the credit for them. So thank you very much.
Cool. Yeah, so you have, I didn't know you had a YouTube channel as well. I'll make sure to go subscribe to that.
Sounds good. Yeah, I've only got two other videos on there right now. I've got one with Jim Shockey, and I've got one with Jimmy Muller. So a lot of
Sweet.
Jims on there.
That's right. That's right. Well,
Um,
awesome. It was good talking with you.
yeah, good talking with you. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye. Bye.